My mother-in-law called my cooking a gift from God for 9 years. She told her church group, her brunch circle, her Instagram followers, Reina was the most talented chef she'd ever known. Then I found the footage. Clips of Vivian Whitlock alone in my commercial kitchen at 5 a.m., photographing every page of my recipe binder, one by one. My name is Reina Whitlock. I'm 34. I own a catering company in Denver called Saffron Table. And the woman who spent nearly a decade calling me practically her own daughter was building a competing business behind my back, using my recipes, my client contacts, and my name. She didn't just steal quietly. She organized a public event, her big debut, where she planned to serve my dishes and announce that she was the one who taught me everything I know. She built a trap designed to erase me, and she walked right into it herself. If you want to hear how a woman who smiled at me across Sunday dinner for 9 years got caught on camera stealing from the person she called family, hit that subscribe button and stay with me. Because what happened at that festival made Vivian wish she'd never picked up a spatula. Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from tonight and what time it is where you are. I want to know who's here. To understand how we got to that festival, I need to take you back to a Saturday in October 2016, the first time I cooked for the Whitlock family. I was 25. I'd been dating Gareth for about 8 months. He was quiet, steady, the kind of guy who showed up when he said he would and didn't make a production out of it. I liked that. I'd grown up around loud, so quiet felt safe. His mother, Vivian, she was impressive. That's the honest word. She had this enormous house in Highlands Ranch, south of Denver. 4 bedrooms, a yard that looked like a catalog shoot, and a kitchen that she clearly considered her kingdom. White marble countertops. A 6-burner Viking range she barely used but kept spotless. Everything in its place. That first Saturday, she'd invited me for a casual family dinner. I'd offered to bring something. She'd said, "Oh, just bring yourself, sweetheart." But I'd been a line cook at a downtown bistro for 3 years, and I couldn't show up empty-handed. So I made my honey chipotle braised short ribs with a cilantro crema, my grandmother's base recipe, adapted over maybe 200 attempts. The look on Vivian's face when she tasted them, I'll never forget it. Her eyes actually closed. She set her fork down and just said, "Reina, where did you learn to do this?" And it wasn't polite. It was genuine. For that 1 second, I felt like she actually saw me. Gareth's brother, who everyone just called Sully, was there with his wife, Priya. Priya caught my eye across the table and gave me this tiny nod, like, "You passed." She'd been married into the Whitlocks for 4 years already. She knew what that approval meant. Vivian asked for the recipe that night. I gave it to her. I gave her everything she asked for, actually, because that's who I was then. Someone who thought generosity was the price of belonging. What I didn't know, what I wouldn't understand for almost 9 years, was that Vivian didn't collect recipes the way normal people do. She collected ammunition. Gareth and I got married in June 2017. Small ceremony, Cheeseman Park, 41 guests. Vivian cried during the vows. She hugged me after and whispered, "I always wanted a daughter." And look, I believed her. I really did. She was warm, she was funny. She called me twice a week just to check in. She brought over homemade soup when I was sick. When I told her I was thinking about leaving the bistro to start my own catering company, she grabbed both my hands and said, "You were born for this, Reina." I launched Saffron Table in March 2018, out of a rented commercial kitchen off South Broadway. Tiny space, 1,200 square feet, fluorescent lights that buzzed if you didn't smack the fixture. But it was mine. I had a 3-year business plan, a $22,000 loan from the SBA, and 17 original recipes I'd spent years developing. Within 18 months, I had 22 regular clients, corporate lunches, private dinners, wedding receptions. By 2020, even with COVID gutting the events industry, I pivoted to meal prep kits and kept the business alive. By 2022, Saffron Table was pulling in $183,000 annually. I had 2 part-time employees and a waiting list. Vivian told everyone. Every brunch, every church group, every neighborhood gathering. My daughter-in-law is such a talented chef. Have you tried her food? She's incredible. She posted about me on Instagram. She tagged me. She sent clients my way. And every time she came to visit, she'd ask to see my recipe binder. This big leather-bound thing I kept in the kitchen. Handwritten. 214 recipes, each one tested at least a dozen times. Notes in the margins, tweaks, failures marked in red pen. "Can I peek?" she'd say. "I just love seeing your process." I'd hand it right over, every single time. Here's something I want you to understand about Vivian. She wasn't a cartoon villain. She wasn't cold or obviously cruel. She was the kind of woman who remembered your birthday, who texted you when it rained to ask if you'd gotten home safe, who showed up at your door with flowers for no reason. She made you feel chosen. And that's what made it work. Because the whole time she was building this perfect image of the supportive mother-in-law, the Instagram posts, the bragging at brunch, the little gifts and cards, she was also doing something else. Something I wouldn't discover for 7 years. She was copying every single recipe. Every one. And she wasn't just writing them down for fun. She was building a portfolio. The first sign was small. So small I almost didn't catch it. It was Thanksgiving 2019. The whole family was at Vivian's house. Gareth and me, Sully and Priya, Vivian's sister from Grand Junction, a couple of neighbors, maybe 14 people total. Vivian had done most of the cooking, which was normal. She liked being in charge of the kitchen. But that year, the sweet potato casserole tasted different. Not bad. Familiar. Specifically, it tasted exactly like my brown butter maple sweet potatoes, a recipe I'd developed for a client's wedding the month before. I said something casual. "Vivian, this is really good. Did you try something new?" She didn't even hesitate. "Oh, I've been making this for years, sweetie. It's my mother's recipe." Her mother's recipe. Okay. I let it go. It was Thanksgiving. Maybe I was imagining it. But then it happened again at Christmas. Her signature spiced pear tart was my ginger cardamom pear tart. Exactly. Down to the cardamom butter crust. I mentioned it to Gareth that night. He shrugged. "Mom's been cooking longer than either of us have been alive. Recipes overlap, babe." And he wasn't wrong. Recipes do overlap. I told myself that. For years, actually. I told myself that cinnamon is cinnamon, that butter is butter, that maybe 2 people could independently arrive at the same chipotle lime glaze with toasted pepitas. But here's the thing about patterns. You can ignore 1 coincidence. You can ignore 2. But by the time you're counting coincidence number 11, you're not counting coincidences anymore. You're counting the lies you told yourself. Between 2019 and 2023, I noticed at least 11 of my recipes showing up in Vivian's kitchen. Specific ones. Ones with unusual combinations that don't just happen by accident. My za'atar roasted carrots with pomegranate yogurt. My lemongrass coconut bisque. my smoked paprika butter rolls. And every single time, she'd say the same thing. "Oh, this old thing? I've been making this forever." She said it so casually, like she was talking about the weather, and I'd just nod. Because what was I going to do? Accuse my mother-in-law of stealing my recipes at a family dinner? In front of everyone? Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd said something then. If I'd just looked at her and said, "Vivian, that's mine and you know it." Would it have changed anything? Probably not. Because what she was doing went so much deeper than a few recipes. I just couldn't see it yet. In February 2023, Vivian started an Instagram account called Vivian's Kitchen. Within 3 months, she had 4,000 followers. By June, she'd hit 11,000. I didn't think much of it at first. A lot of women her age were getting into food content. Good for her, honestly. She was 61 and finding a new passion. I was happy for her. Then Priya texted me a screenshot. It was one of Vivian's posts, a photo of my honey chipotle braised short ribs, the same dish that had started everything at that first family dinner, plated on Vivian's white dishes with the caption, "My signature dish, the recipe that started my love affair with Southwestern fusion. Made this for 30 years. 30 years. She'd been making my grandmother's recipe adaptation for 30 years. I'd only existed for 34. I scrolled through her entire feed that night, 47 posts, and I counted, because at some point I stopped scrolling casually and started keeping track. 19 of them were my recipes, my exact recipes. Same ingredients, same ratios, same plating style. The ones I'd spent years perfecting in a 1,200 square foot kitchen with buzzing fluorescent lights. She'd photographed them beautifully, I'll give her that. Professional lighting, fresh herbs as garnish, those white marble countertops as backdrop. And every caption told the same story. This was Vivian's cooking. These were Vivian's creations, passed down through Vivian's family, perfected over Vivian's lifetime. I wasn't even mentioned. Not once. Not in a single post. I called Gareth. He was at a job site. He does commercial HVAC, so he was distracted. I told him what I'd found. He said, "Mom probably didn't mean anything by it, Reina. She's just having fun with Instagram. She said she's been making my short ribs for 30 years. You know how she exaggerates. She's being dramatic. Don't make it a thing. Don't make it a thing." That sentence. I've turned it over in my head 1,000 times since then. Don't make it a thing. Like my work was the thing. Like 9 years of recipes were the thing. Like my name not appearing once on 47 posts featuring my food was the thing that shouldn't exist. If you've ever had someone you love tell you that your pain is the problem, not the person causing it, just stay with me. Because I carried that feeling in my chest for another 8 months before I understood what was really happening. And when I did, it changed everything. Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear if you've been in that spot. Because what Vivian did next at Easter made the Instagram thing look like nothing. Easter 2023, Vivian's house. The whole family, plus her book club friends, plus 2 couples from the neighborhood. Maybe 25 people. I'd brought my lemon lavender cake. It was a new recipe, something I'd been testing for a spring wedding client. 3 layers, cream cheese frosting with dried lavender pressed into the top. I was proud of it. Vivian served it after dinner, and I watched her cut it, plate it, hand the slices around the table. People were raving. "Vivian, this is incredible. Did you make this?" And Vivian, she didn't correct them. She just smiled and said, "Thank you so much. I'm so glad you like it." That was it. She didn't say she made it. She didn't say I made it. She just accepted the praise and let the assumption sit there, warm and comfortable, while I sat 6 feet away holding my fork. And the thing is, I couldn't even call it a lie. That's what made it so much worse. She hadn't technically claimed it, she'd just allowed it. If I spoke up, I'd look petty, defensive, fighting over a cake at Easter dinner. She'd engineered a situation where silence and theft were the same thing. Priya caught my eye afterward, not during the moment, but later, while Vivian was entertaining in the living room. Priya found me in the hallway near the bathroom. She pulled me aside. "She does this," Priya whispered. "I've seen her do it before. With the short ribs, with the pear tart. She waits until there's an audience and lets them assume." "Why didn't you say anything?" Priya's face, God, she looked exhausted. Not angry, just tired. Because the last time I pushed back on Vivian about anything, she didn't speak to Sully for 6 weeks. He blamed me. I can't do that again. I understood that. I really did. Vivian had this way of making consequences fall on everyone except herself. If you challenged her, you didn't just fight Vivian. You fought the whole system she'd built. The guilt, the silence, the family pressure to keep things smooth. But standing in that hallway, hearing Priya confirm what I'd been telling myself was paranoia, something clicked. Not loud, just a quiet shift in how I saw the room. And honestly, part of me still thought maybe she was just insecure. Maybe she'd tried my recipes, tweaked them a little, made them enough times that she genuinely started to think of them as hers. My grandmother used to mix up whose casserole dish was whose all the time. People do that. Especially with food, the lines blur. I held on to that thought for a while. It was easier than the alternative. I went home that night and I sat in my car in the garage for maybe 20 minutes. Engine off, just thinking. And I decided I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to pay attention. Really pay attention. Because if Priya had seen it too, then I wasn't crazy. And if I wasn't crazy, then there was a pattern. And patterns leave traces. I didn't know it then, but Easter 2023 was the last time I'd sit in Vivian's house and feel small. Here's what I want to ask you. If someone you trusted, someone your whole family loved, was slowly, carefully erasing your work and putting their name on it, would you confront them right away? Or would you wait and watch? Because I chose to wait. And honestly, I'm still not sure if that was brave or just scared. Tell me what you think in the comments. Because what I found out in the next few months, it wasn't just recipes she was stealing. July 2023. I was doing a routine inventory of my client files at the kitchen. Every quarter, I go through my active contracts, check renewal dates, update contact info. Standard stuff. But this time, something was off. 3 of my corporate clients, a law firm downtown, a tech startup in Reina, and a medical office in Centennial, hadn't responded to my renewal emails, which was strange because 2 of them had been with me for over 4 years. I called the law firm directly. The office manager, a woman I'd worked with for years, sounded uncomfortable. "Reina, I'm sorry. We actually got approached by another caterer who offered a really competitive rate. She said she'd trained you, actually. Said she was your mentor." My stomach dropped. "What was her name?" "Vivian something. She left a card. Hold on. Vivian Whitlock. She was really professional, had a whole portfolio." A whole portfolio. Of my food. Photographed in my style. Presented as hers. I called the tech startup next. The guy who handled their events was more direct about it. "Yeah, we went with someone else. Better price. She seemed legit." He didn't want to talk about it. I could hear him already moving on to his next email. The medical office was the one that stung. The office manager there, Linda, she'd sent me a holiday card the year before. When I asked about the renewal, she got quiet. "I'd rather not get into it, Reina. I think it's best if we go in a different direction. She wouldn't say Vivian's name. She wouldn't say anything. She just wanted off the phone. That silence told me more than the other 2 calls combined. Linda wasn't switching caterers. She was choosing a side. And she'd already decided mine was the uncomfortable one to be on. 3 clients doesn't sound like a lot, but those 3 contracts were worth $31,000 annually. And if she'd already contacted 3, how many others had she reached out to? How many had just quietly switched without telling me? I pulled up my client database on the kitchen computer, and that's when I noticed something else. The file had been opened on a date when I wasn't in the kitchen. March 14th, 2023, a Tuesday. I'd been at a dentist appointment that morning, and then at a client site all afternoon. I checked my calendar twice. The smell of stale coffee was still in the air from that morning's brew. The fridge hummed. Outside, a truck rumbled down South Broadway, and I was sitting there realizing someone had been on my computer. Someone with access to the kitchen. Vivian had a key. Gareth had given her a spare when I'd first opened the kitchen in 2018. In case of emergencies, he'd said. She'd used it once to drop off some storage containers she'd bought me. I'd forgotten she even had it. I sat in that kitchen for a long time that night. Just me and the fluorescent hum, and the realization that the woman who called me practically her own daughter had been sneaking into my business, copying my life's work, and using it to compete against me. I didn't cry. I know that sounds weird, but I was past that. What I felt was this cold, precise clarity. Every, "Can I peek at your binder?" Every, "Oh, I've been making this forever." Every Instagram post. Every phone call she didn't tell me about. It all connected. 9 years of small thefts, and I'd been handing her the key, literally, the entire time. A few days later, Vivian came to a family barbecue at our house. She brought potato salad. She hugged me at the door. And then, while I was in the backyard flipping burgers, she looked at Gareth and said, he told me this later, his voice flat, like he still couldn't believe he'd heard it. "You know, Gareth, I worry about Reina's little business. The catering market is so competitive now. I just hope she has a backup plan." A backup plan. She was building a competing company with my stolen recipes and my poached clients, and she was ceding worry about my future to my own husband. The next morning, I called a security company. 48 hours later, I had 3 cameras installed in the kitchen. Motion activated, cloud storage. $212 a month. I didn't tell Gareth. I didn't tell Priya. I didn't tell anyone. The cameras caught Vivian 11 days later, July 23rd, 2023, 5:14 a.m. She let herself in with the spare key. She went straight to my recipe binder. She opened it to a tabbed section, my fall seasonal menu, and started photographing each page with her phone. Methodical, 1 page at a time. She even adjusted the angle when the lighting wasn't great. Then she sat down at my computer. She opened my client list. She scrolled through it for 6 minutes and 42 seconds. She took photos of the screen. She left at 5:51 a.m., 37 minutes total. She locked the door behind her. I watched the footage on my phone that morning, sitting in my car outside a client's office. My hands were completely still. That's the thing I remember most. How still my hands were, because inside, everything was moving. But I didn't react. I didn't call her. I didn't call Gareth. I didn't change the locks. I just waited, because I needed to know how deep this went. One visit could be explained away. I was just looking. I was curious. "You're overreacting, Reina." So I let the cameras run. And Vivian came back. August 4th, August 19th, September 7th, September 22nd. Every time, the same routine. Key, binder, photographs, computer, client list, leave. By mid-October, I had 14 recorded visits, 17 hours of footage, every single one time-stamped, clear as day. And then I found her website. It was called Denver Kitchen by Vivian. Clean design, professional photos, my food, my plating, my style. An about page where she described herself as a lifelong culinary artist mentoring the next generation of Denver chefs. A services page offering catering for corporate events, private dinners, and weddings. At first, I thought maybe she was teaching classes, sharing recipes online, something harmless, something a retired woman does with too much time and a nice kitchen. Then I scrolled down to the services page. Price list. 20% below mine across the board. Corporate inquiries, welcome. This wasn't a hobby blog. This was a business. And the site had been live since at least August, based on the cached page dates. She'd been building this while I was still installing cameras. She had a launch date scheduled, November 11th, a neighborhood food festival at Crestmore Park that she'd organized herself. She was on the HOA events committee. Local press invited. A banner she'd already ordered that read, Denver Kitchen by Vivian, a lifetime of flavor. A lifetime of flavor. My lifetime. My flavor. Repackaged under her name. This wasn't a hobby. This wasn't an Instagram account for fun. This was a calculated, months-long operation to absorb my business and replace me. And she was going to launch it publicly at an event she designed specifically to make her the star. That's the thing about Vivian. She didn't just steal, she curated. She built a whole mythology around the theft. The lifetime culinary artist, the mentor, the family tradition. She turned my work into her story so completely that by the time anyone tasted the food, they'd already believe it was hers. If you're listening to this and you're thinking, no, there's no way she planned all that with a straight face. I hear you. I thought the same thing. You think that was bad? Hit like, because what happened at that festival makes all of this look like a warm-up. I spent the next 3 weeks doing something I'd never done before. I prepared. Not for a catering job. Not for a client pitch. For the moment, I was going to stop being the person Vivian thought I was. I organized all 14 video clips into a single folder. I timestamped each one. I compiled screenshots of her website next to photos of my original recipe binder pages. Side by side, ingredient for ingredient. I printed the email confirmations from my 3 poached clients showing the dates Vivian contacted them. I also called the law firm, the tech startup, and the medical office. I was honest. I told them what was happening. All 3 said they'd hold off on signing with Vivian until after November. Then I called Priya. She answered on the second ring. I could hear her kids in the background. She has 2, a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old. I need to tell you something, I said, and I need you to be honest with me. I told her about the cameras, about the footage. She went quiet. And then I heard one of the kids yelling something, and Priya pulled the phone away. Hold on. No, go ask Daddy. Mama's on the phone. She came back, her voice lower. Say that again? I told her about the website, about the festival. There was a long silence. Then Priya said, haltingly, I know about the website. What? She showed me. Maybe 2 weeks ago? She was... God, Reina. She was proud of it. She showed me the whole thing on her iPad and she said, Isn't it beautiful? I'm finally doing my own thing. And I just sat there. I didn't say anything. I froze. Why didn't you call me? Her voice cracked. Because Vivian will... She stopped. Started again. The last time I challenged her on anything, Sully didn't look at me for 3 weeks. She told the whole family I was trying to break them apart. I can't go through that again. I could hear her breathing. Uneven. The kids were still audible in another room. Something clattered. A toy, maybe a plate. Normal household chaos happening around a conversation that was anything but. Priya, I'm not asking you to fight her. I'm asking you one question. Will you be at that festival? She's making the whole family come. It's mandatory. Then just be there. That's all. She was quiet for a long time. Long enough that I thought the call might have dropped. I don't know, Reina. I don't know if I can be there and just watch whatever you're going to do. I don't know if I'm strong enough for that. Just think about it. That's all I'm asking. She texted me at 11:47 that night. 3 words. I'll be there. After I hung up from the call, I sat in my kitchen. My real kitchen, at home, not the commercial one. And I made a list. Not of evidence. I had plenty of that. I made a list of every recipe Vivian had stolen, every post she'd made, every lie she'd told. 19 recipes, 47 Instagram posts, 3 poached clients, 14 camera visits, 1 website, 1 festival, and 1 woman who still had a key to my building. I didn't change the locks. I know that sounds insane, but I wanted the record complete. I wanted the footage to keep building right up until the moment she served my food and called it hers. The night before the festival, I was up late, testing a new cranberry glaze for a holiday client. Nothing to do with Vivian, just normal work. And I stood there at 1 a.m., brush in hand, staring at the glaze as it cooled, and I thought, you can steal every recipe in that binder, photograph every page, copy every ratio, but you can't copy the 1,000 hours of standing at this counter at 1 a.m., fixing what didn't work the first 9 times. That part doesn't transfer, because the trap she'd built for me, the festival, the banner, the narrative where I was just the help she'd trained, I was going to walk right into it, and I was going to flip the whole thing. Would you have gone through with it? Would you have shown up and pressed play, knowing your whole family would be watching, knowing your marriage might take the hit? Drop a comment. Tell me honestly, because I almost didn't go. I sat in my car for 40 minutes on November 11th, keys in the ignition. Almost drove home, but I didn't. And here's what happened. November 11th. My hands were shaking before I even got out of the car. I sat there gripping the steering wheel, laptop bag on the passenger seat, watching people stream into Crestmore Park through the windshield. 58 degrees, clear sky, the mountains sharp on the horizon. I made myself walk. 1 foot, then the next, through the parking lot, past the string lights and white tents, past the long tasting table where Vivian's food, my food, was laid out in matching ceramic dishes. Denver Kitchen by Vivian, in gold script on every banner. And people. God, there were people. The whole neighborhood. HOA members, local business owners, a woman from the Denver Post food section holding a notepad. 300 people. Maybe more. Vivian was in the center of it all, wearing a white linen apron embroidered with her initials, greeting guests like she'd been doing this her whole life. Gareth found me near the entrance. He looked relieved. I didn't think you were coming. Mom's been asking about you. I'm here. She wants to introduce you to some people. She said she wants to credit you as, I think she said, her protege. Her protege. Even at the end, even at the very last second, she was scripting my role in her story. Where's Priya? Over by the dessert table. She looks like she's about to throw up, honestly. I found Priya. She was standing near the edge of the tent, holding a plate she wasn't eating from. When she saw me, her eyes went wide. She looked at my bag. I had my laptop in a canvas tote, and I could see her connect the dots. You're doing it, she said. Not a question. I'm doing it. Reina. She grabbed my wrist. She'll never forgive you. I know. She'll turn the whole family against you. She already did. She just used food instead of words. Vivian had set up a small PA system near the main table. Around 3 p.m., she clinked the glass. Actually clinked a wine glass with a fork, like this was a wedding toast. And the crowd gathered. "Thank you all so much for being here," she started. Her voice was warm, practiced. "Many of you know I've been cooking for decades. What you may not know is that I've been quietly mentoring the next generation of Denver chefs, including my own daughter-in-law, Reina." She gestured toward me. People turned. I didn't smile. "Today, I'm thrilled to finally share my passion with all of you officially. Denver Kitchen by Vivian is my dream come true. A lifetime of family recipes, perfected over 30 years, now available for your events and gatherings." 30 years. There it was again. 30 years. I walked toward the PA system. My legs were steady, but my heart was pounding. Not racing, pounding. My hands weren't still anymore. "Can I say something?" I said. Vivian's face. For just a fraction of a second, something cold passed behind her eyes. Then the smile came back. "Of course, sweetheart. Everyone, Reina's going to say a few words about our partnership." I reached for the projector cable. It didn't fit. Wrong adapter. My face went hot. Someone from the AV setup, a teenager in a black t-shirt, leaned over and said, "Try the other port, the HDMI." I fumbled with it. My hands were trembling now, and I could feel 300 people watching me struggle with a cable. Vivian laughed lightly. "Technical difficulties." And a few people chuckled. The screen lit up. Vivian just said these are her family recipes, perfected over 30 years. I said. My voice cracked on the first sentence. I cleared my throat. Started again. "I want to show you something." The first image was a side-by-side. On the left, a page from my recipe binder, handwritten, dated March 2019, honey chipotle braised short ribs. On the right, Vivian's Instagram post from January 2023 with the caption, "My signature dish. Made this for 30 years. This is my recipe," I said. Written in my hand. Dated 4 years ago. Vivian posted it as her own 9 months ago. Murmuring in the crowd. Vivian's smile didn't drop yet. "Reina, sweetie, I think there's been a I have 14 more." I clicked through them. Not smoothly. I went too fast on one. Had to click back. But the evidence was there. My binder pages, dated and time-stamped, next to Vivian's posts. The za'atar carrots, the lemongrass bisque, the smoked paprika rolls, the lemon lavender cake she'd accepted credit for at Easter while I sat 6 feet away. Then I played the footage. The first clip. Vivian, alone in my commercial kitchen, July 23rd, 5:14 a.m., photographing my recipe binder, page by page. Silence. Total silence from the crowd. The second clip, August 4th, same routine. Key, binder, photos, computer. The third clip, September 7th. This time, she brought a notebook. She was writing down my recipes by hand, probably for her website. Vivian's face. I'll carry that image forever. The color draining out of her cheeks. Her mouth opening and closing. No words. Her hands gripping the edge of the table. And for a second, maybe less, her hands were trembling. Not the performance kind of trembling, real trembling. And some part of me, some stupid, loyal part that remembered the soup she brought when I was sick, and the way she'd grabbed my hands and said, "You were born for this." That part almost closed the laptop. "You gave me that key," she finally said. Her voice was thin, cracked. "You gave me access. I gave you a key for emergencies, not to steal my business." The woman from the Denver Post was writing furiously. Two neighbors had their phones out. The HOA president was staring at Vivian with an expression I can only describe as horrified. Gareth was standing at the edge of the crowd. His face was, I can't describe it exactly. Shock, yes, but also something else. Recognition. Then Priya stepped forward. I hadn't asked her to do this. I didn't know she was going to. She does this, Priya said. Her voice was shaking, but she was looking right at Vivian. She did it with my mother's doll recipe. She posted it 2 years ago as a family classic. I saw it and I said nothing because I was afraid. She paused, swallowed hard. I'm not afraid anymore. Vivian looked at Priya like she'd been slapped. You ungrateful, Vivian started. Mom? Gareth's voice. Quiet. Final. Stop. That was it. 2 words. Mom, stop. And Vivian stopped. Because for the first time in 9 years, her son wasn't on her side. The festival dissolved after that. People drifted away in small clusters, talking in low voices. A few came up to me. A woman from the neighborhood handed me her card and said, Call me when you're ready. I need a caterer for my daughter's graduation. The HOA president apologized to me personally. The Denver Post woman asked for my number. Vivian stood by her tasting table for a long time. Alone. The banner, Denver Kitchen by Vivian, a lifetime of flavor, rippling slightly in the November wind behind her. I walked back to my car. I got in. I closed the door. And then my hand started shaking. Not the small tremor from earlier, but the real thing. The kind that comes after your body finally understands what you just did. The steadiness that had held me through the projector cable and the evidence and Vivian's face, all of it dissolved. I sat there for a long time. Engine off. Parking lot emptying around me. Breathing. The fallout was fast and specific. The Denver Post ran a piece the following Thursday. Not a huge feature. A column in the foods section about recipe ownership and intellectual property in the catering world. They didn't name Vivian directly, but anyone in Highlands Ranch who'd been at that festival knew exactly who they were talking about. Vivian's Instagram went private within 24 hours of the article. By December, she'd deleted the account entirely. Her website, Denver Kitchen by Vivian, went offline November 14th, 3 days after the festival. I know because I checked. I'm not proud of that, but I checked. The 3 clients she'd poached came back. All 3. The law firm sent a fruit basket with a note that said, We should have asked more questions. Sorry, Reina. The tech startup doubled their annual contract. Gareth was quiet for about a week after the festival. Not angry quiet. Processing quiet. Then one night, he sat down at the kitchen table while I was testing a new recipe and said, I should have listened to you. About the Instagram. About all of it. Yeah, you should have. I know. I was protecting her because that's what I've always done. And I didn't want to see it. I didn't tell him it was okay because it wasn't. But I told him I understood. And I meant it. Gareth wasn't the villain in this story. He was someone who loved his mother and couldn't reconcile the woman he grew up with and the woman who'd been sneaking into his wife's kitchen at 5 a.m. That's not easy. I don't think most people understand how hard it is to see your own parent clearly. We went to couples therapy, January through April, every other Tuesday. It wasn't dramatic, no shouting, no ultimatums. Just 2 people learning how to talk about the thing they'd both been avoiding. The hardest session was the 3rd one. Gareth said, I think part of me knew. Not about the cameras or the website, but about the recipes. The way she'd serve your dishes and not correct people. I saw it, and I told myself it didn't matter. Our therapist asked me how that made me feel. Like I was the only person in the room who could see the fire, I said. And everyone else kept telling me the smoke was normal. That was the sentence that broke something open between us. I saw Gareth's face change. Not collapse exactly. More like settle. Like he finally stopped trying to hold two truths at once and just let one of them go. 6 months later, May 2024. Saffron Table had its best quarter ever. $62,000 in 3 months. I'd hired a third part-time employee. I'd upgraded the kitchen lighting. No more buzzing fluorescents. LED panels, warm white. The kind of light that makes food look the way it's supposed to. Priya and I had coffee every other week now. Sometimes at her place, sometimes at mine. We didn't always talk about Vivian. Sometimes we talked about her kids, or my plans for the business, or that documentary about the pastry chef in Lyon that we'd both watched. But occasionally, when it was quiet and the coffee was warm and neither of us was in a hurry, she'd say something like, "I should have spoken up sooner." And I'd say, "You spoke up when it mattered." That was the truth. Priya's words at the festival, about the dal recipe, about being afraid, did something I couldn't have done alone. I had the evidence. I had the facts. But Priya had the confirmation that this wasn't just about me, that Vivian's pattern touched everyone. And that mattered more than any footage. Gareth and Vivian didn't speak for about 4 months. She tried calling him a few times in December. He let them go to voicemail. In March, she sent a letter. Handwritten. He read it at the kitchen table, folded it carefully, and put it in a drawer. "What did she say?" I asked. "That she's sorry. That she got carried away with the Instagram thing and it spiraled. That she never meant to hurt anyone." "Do you believe her?" He thought about it for a long time. "I believe she's sorry it came out the way it did. I don't think she's sorry she did it." That distinction, between being sorry it happened and being sorry it was exposed, might be the most honest thing Gareth ever said to me. In June 2024, Gareth went to lunch with Vivian. Just the two of them. He came home and said it went okay. That she seemed smaller, somehow. Less performative. She hadn't mentioned the festival, or the food, or any of it. She'd just asked about his work and told him about a book she was reading. I didn't go. I wasn't ready. And honestly, I didn't know if I'd ever be. Priya hadn't gone either. Sully had been to see Vivian a few times, but he went alone. The family didn't break apart the way Vivian probably feared. It just rearranged. There were smaller gatherings now. No more 25-person holiday productions. No more Vivian in the center of the kitchen, orchestrating. Just quieter dinners. Gareth and me, Sully and Priya. Sometimes together, sometimes separate. Different. Not worse, just different. The funny thing, and I mean actually funny, not ironic, is that Vivian's cooking got better. Or maybe it was always fine and she just stopped trying to be someone else. Gareth said the soup she made at that June lunch was good. Simple. Just chicken soup, he said. Like, normal chicken soup. No weird fusion. No Instagram staging. Just soup. That made me laugh. For the first time in months, something about Vivian made me laugh. It's February 2025 now. Denver in February is cold in a way that seeps. The mountains are white. The air smells like snow and diesel from the plows that come through our neighborhood at 4 a.m. Saffron Table just signed its 43rd client, a nonprofit doing a gala in March. When I got the email confirmation, I sat at my desk in the kitchen. The good lighting, the new desk I'd bought in October, and I just looked at the number. 43. When I started, I had 0. When Vivian tried to take it from me, I had 22. Now, 43. I changed the locks, by the way. Back in November 2023, the day after the festival. Got the spare key back from Vivian through Gareth. She didn't fight it. She just handed it over in a plastic bag like it was contaminated. The recipe binder still sits on the same shelf in the kitchen. Same leather cover, same handwritten pages. 231 recipes now. 17 new ones since the festival. Every one of them is mine. Not because I own them legally, though I talked to an intellectual property lawyer and we're working on that, but because they came from my hands, my experiments, my failures, my grandmother's kitchen, and my $22,000 SBA loan, and my 1,200 square foot start. I heard through Sully that Vivian tried to start a baking class at the community center in December 2024. A small thing, just teaching basic skills to retirees. But someone who'd been at the festival was in the class, and they said something to the program director, and the class was quietly discontinued after 2 sessions. I still don't know if what I did at the festival was the right thing or just the satisfying thing. I think about that more than I expected to. She's at home now, cooking for herself, in that big Highlands Ranch kitchen with the marble countertops and the 6-burner Viking range. Alone most days. Sully visits. Gareth visits sometimes. The Instagram is gone. The website is gone. The banner is probably folded up in a garage somewhere. Here's what stays with me. Not the anger, not the footage, not even the festival. What stays with me is the quiet after. Because you think the big moment, the confrontation, the evidence, the gasps from the crowd, that's the climax of the story. And it is. But the real weight hits later. When you're standing in your own kitchen on a Tuesday morning, making coffee, and you realize you're not thinking about her. You're thinking about the gala menu. You're thinking about whether to try a miso caramel for the dessert course. You're thinking about your life, not the one she tried to build on top of it. And you know what? I think about my grandmother sometimes. The woman who taught me to cook with her hands, not from a screen. She used to say something. It wasn't wise, really. It was just true. She'd say, "The recipe is in the fingers, not the page." Vivian could photograph every page in that binder. She could copy every ingredient, every measurement, every note in the margin. But she could never copy the thing that made the food mine. Because that wasn't on the page. It never was. If you stayed with me through all of this, honestly, thank you. I started telling this story because I wanted people to know what happened. But somewhere around part 6, I realized I was telling it because I needed to hear myself say it out loud. That it happened. That it was real. That I wasn't crazy. So if this story meant something to you, if you've ever had someone take credit for the thing you built with your own hands, would you hit that subscribe button for me? Not because I need the numbers, but because every time someone new hears this, it means one more person who knows what it looks like when someone smiles at you while stealing your life. Leave me a comment. Tell me, has anyone ever tried to take what was yours and call it theirs? I want to hear your story, because I know I'm not the only one. And if you want to hear another story like this, someone else who stood up when it would have been easier to stay quiet, there's more on this channel. Come find us. My name is Reina Whitlock. I'm a chef. I own a catering company called Saffron Table, and nobody gets to rewrite my recipe. Vivian's kitchen is quiet these days. 6-burner Viking range, marble countertops, 1 place setting. She's cooking for 1 now. In the kitchen she used to fill with other people's food and call it hers. I don't check anymore.